only Melissa submitted the ice-breaking exercise. So what about others? Have you done the...
Yeah, I've done it, but I forgot to send it to you. Can I send it to you now on WhatsApp?
Yeah, sure, I can. Just PM me.
I'm still doing it. Sorry, still trying to like figure out.
Sorry, sir, I completely forgot about it. I'll
Okay.
get it done for you by today.
All right. Yeah, it's okay actually, because I'm just going to give you the answers lah, right? Into this lecture. So it's okay if you still want to do it. You can just submit to me. But right now I'm just going to share the answers as well as today's lecture. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, so basically today the first lecture, which is the introduction to shape grammar. I would say this is the the most important lecture for this module, because actually the concept of shape grammar is quite simple, right? As long as you understand the basic concept behind it. So once you know the concept, then I think you can just create, you can just apply it to create designs. So it can be in the form of two-dimensional and also three-dimensional. Okay. But before I go towards the shape grammar itself, so let's discuss about the ice-breaking exercise that I've given last week. Okay, so basically this is the question. Given 6 sticks or lines of the same length, arrange them in certain ways and produce 5 possible shapes or design. So far I've only seen submission from Melissa, but what I can say, Melissa, I think some of the answers are correct, but I think some of them are actually not incorrect, because what I want you to do basically only to use 6 lines, 6 sticks, right? But
okay.
I think you use more than 6, right? So that's where it went wrong. Okay, so using these 6 lines to create any shape. Okay, so what I expect you guys to produce is basically some kind of shape, right? Or design or pattern. But in order for you to produce the shape or the design, most likely you're going to use some kind of organizing principles. Organizing, for example, like you're going to lay the lines side by side, right? Or you're going to create it to rotate it in certain angle, okay, to create a certain shape. So the possible arrangement of the lines will be something like this. It may be more than this, right? Depends on your creativity. But these are among the possible arrangements that you can come up with. So basically, if you look at all the shapes or all the arrangement, they all consist of 6 lines. Okay, so like this one. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is very straightforward, and this is also quite straightforward. Okay, so but from all this arrangement, you can see some organizing principles, right? So like this one, you just lay the lines side by side, okay, all the 6 lines side by side, and this is also side by side, but it actually, you move down a bit, okay? But between the 2 lines, okay, the movement remains the same. So maybe so it becomes like this, and then in this manner, basically you rotate at certain angle, okay, So you can see the pattern, right? The principles behind the arrangement. And basically like this one, this shape, basically you rotate the line at what angle is this? 60, okay, or 60 degrees angle at all the end of the line, and then you get this shape. And this one also also 6 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, this is also 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. And this is in a radial manner. Okay, so you arrange them in radial manner. Okay, so basically you can come up with more arrangement, right? But what I want to say is basically you already have the underlying knowledge which is required to perform or to apply this shape grammar. So at the end of today's lecture, you're going to find out that one of the most important thing in shape grammar is basically organizing principles. Okay, so how do you arrange the shape, or how do you arrange the lines to create interesting patterns or design? Okay. Right. So basically, the concept of shape grammar, this method, right? This shape grammar method was created like 50 years ago, right? In 1972. Was created by George Steiny and James Gibbs in 1972. So basically, they are researchers, and I think now they are with MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So it is a production system in computational design that generates geometric shape. So as I mentioned last week during the introduction, basically nowadays, even right from the start, they have used this shape grammar mostly in computational design. So what is computational design? Basically, by using computer to create the design, right? But it's not like how you use software. It's not about using software like Revit, 3D Max, or whatever. Okay, but computational design is more than that. Okay, so you need to use programming language like C++. In 3D Max, they use 3D Max script, okay, Java, that kind of things. So you're not going to use the basic user interface, for example, like to create cube or to create anything, cylinder or whatsoever. But instead you're going to use text, right? So you need to type down the text, for example, like if, so you need to type one by one. So if rectangular, and then the dimension, whatever, then so I think if you have heard about programming language, maybe you know the terms like if, then. So if the arrangement is like this, then the shape becomes like this. So that kind of things. But everything will be typed using that programming language. Okay. So, but in this module, like I said last week, you're not going to do that. Maybe I'm just going to show some examples, which I've done previously. But in this class, basically everything will be done using manual framework. So you can draw manually using pen and paper, or you can do like mock-up models to create the design, or you can also use computer software. Right. Okay, so basically in the picture is Steiny and Gibbs themselves, and at the background is basically the first painting created using the shape grammar method. Right. So what you can see from the painting is basically some kind of repetition of shapes, but they were not produced using hands. Okay. So they were not produced manually. The painting or the design was not produced manually, but they produced it using this shape grammar method. So they launched like a program, something on the computer. They type on the computer. So basically, the computer itself generates the design. Okay. Okay. Before we look into the concept of shape grammar, okay, the method of shape grammar. So let's look at the definition of what makes the definition of shape grammar. Okay, so the first one is obviously shape. Right? So basically, it's shape and grammar. So let's look into the word shape. Okay, so shape is actually an arrangement of basic geometrical elements in space. It can be 0 dimension, 1 dimension, 2 dimension, and 3 dimension. Okay, 0 dimension things is the dot itself. Right? 1 dimension, just a single line, and 2 dimension. Okay, when you join the lines to create a shape. Okay, circle, rectangle, a square, and then 3 dimension when you have some kind of depth. Okay, depth. So it becomes 3 dimension. It may be it can be applied to I think maybe 4 dimension, so things like that. Okay, so any number of lines can be arranged in any way to create a shape. Okay. But maybe because we have some kind of preconceived ideas, right? That a shape, normally when we say shape, so what comes into our mind is basically like the usual shapes, no? Like circle, square, rectangle, triangle, okay, that kind of shapes. But it is actually more than that. At least for the application of in this module, in this concept, shape grammar. So shape can be more than that. It can be, as you can see on screen, it can be cylinder, right? It can be just a few lines, few overlapping lines. It can be cuboid, right? It can be like organic shapes and so on. Okay, now let's look at the definition of grammar. Right? So in language, basically, the word grammar, the definition of the word grammar in language is basically the study or the use of rules about how words change their form and combine with other words to make sentences. Okay, so as you know, in language, how we use language is basically by combining words, right? But we don't simply combine words, random words. Right? There is actually an underlying rules that arrange the word that we need to use to arrange the words. Okay, so for example, like maybe the way we learn language is not like how I show it here in the rules, but basically, if you look back at the words that you are saying, the sentences that you are saying, it is actually true. Okay, so for example, like in a sentence, basically what makes a sentence is actually a combination of noun phrase and also verb phrase, right? And then what makes the noun phrase is actually a combination of article and noun, and what makes the verb phrase is a combination of verb and noun phrase. So those are the main rules or the main principles of how we create sentences. But of course, we already know the language, right? We know how to create sentences, so we don't really care about the rules behind behind how we create sentences, right? And then we move down. You can see these are just examples, right? What are examples of articles? One example is and, another example is the, and then nouns, right? So one example is architect, one example is engineer, and verb. One example is met, one example is suit. Okay, so later on you're going to use. I mean, if you refer to the top 3 rules, okay, rules to create sentence, rule to create noun phrase, and rule to create verb phrase. So all of them are actually using the 6 rules at the bottom. Okay, so basically you're just combining the article, the noun, the verbs, but in different way. Okay, so how you create sentence is something like this. So if you look at the what do you call this, tree chart or something. So it's the main thing that you are going to create is the sentence, right? So to create a sentence, first you need to combine these two things, noun phrase and verb phrase. And then to create a noun phrase, you combine article and noun. And to create a verb phrase, you combine verb and noun phrase. And these are where you apply the article, the options, the different options of articles, nouns, and verbs. So one of so for example, like this one, the first article, we can choose between and the. And then the first noun, you can choose between architect and engineer. And verb, you can choose between suit and met. And here, so here you can see that this is noun phrase, which is the same as this noun phrase, okay, which is actually a combination of article and noun. This is a combination of article and noun. So article, this one, you can actually use either the and again, looking at this example. And finally, noun, the last noun, you can use either engineer or architect, right? Based on this rules, based on the selection. Okay, so the first sentence that you would create using this rules here, these so-called rules here, is basically an architect suit the engineer, right? Okay, so now let's look at a different possibility using the same options here, using the same selection of words here, selection of article, noun, and verb, but you apply it differently. Okay. It is still the same. The top three rules are still the same: sentence, noun phrase, verb phrase. Okay, but you can actually apply different option at every article and noun here. For example, like the first article, instead of and, you can choose the. And then the second one, the noun, instead of architect, you use engineer. So there are several possible sentences that you can create like this. So the first one is the engineer met the architect, and the architect suit the engineer. The architect met the engineer, and also an engineer suit an architect. Okay, so these are the options that you can derive from this so-called rules here, right? So basically, this is where how shape grammar works, right? But instead of using words and sentences, you use shape. Okay? You use shape and also the arrangement of shape to come up with design. So the beauty behind this shape, this method is basically to come up with different possible designs. Okay, so instead of normally in your design studio, in your design project, when you design something, basically you just come up with one design, right? So there's no option to that. But using this method, shape grammar method, basically the main idea or the beauty behind this method is basically to create several designs in the same language or in the same style. Okay, so the definition of shape grammar is basically a rule or set of rules that determine how to modify or transform a shape into a new one. Okay. The rules are applied in a step-by-step way to generate a language of design. If you remember in the lecture last week and the video, basically I talk about the language of design, right? So instead of just creating a design, one design, so you create a language of design that is possible to create multiple, a variety of designs. Okay, so by using a language, you can create multiple of design instead of just one design. Okay, so a designer established the shape rules while the rules generate or compute designs. So in the case of this module where you are going to apply it manually, so you need to draw. So you need to, based on the rules, you draw, you arrange the shape according to the rules. But in the case of computational design, where we use computer to generate the language of design. Then the design will be produced automatically using computer. So basically the computer will generate the design itself. Okay, so if you look at the, so those are examples. So if you look at this thing, this image, basically this part here is basically the rules. This is an example of rules. And you can come up with this pattern, right? This design just by using this rule. Okay, shape rules is written in the following convention. Okay, so remember in every exercises and every project in this module, so this is the way how you draw or write the rules. So first you create, but you don't actually have to write down the this text, original shape and transform combination. This is not important. So what is important is the shape itself, the original shape, this shape on the left side, and then the arrow pointing from left to right. Okay, it's not the other way around. So always from left to right. And then on this right hand side is actually how you want the original shape to be transformed or to be combined with other shape. Okay, so basically in this example, this is the original shape, and the transform or combined shape. Basically, you can still see the original shape here. This is the original shape, but at the same time, you add on another shape, which is actually the identical shape. It's the same shape as this, which is rectangular, but you rotate the shape 90 degrees, and then you overlap to become like this. Okay, so this is the rules, the shape rule. Okay, so basically, what shape rule does is basically it constrains how a shape should be transformed or combined with other shape. So when you launch or when you create a pattern using this shape grammar method, so first you need to specify the rules, which is like this, and when you want to create the design, basically you have to obey the rules. Whatever you do when you develop the design, you cannot deviate or you cannot run away from this rule. So if the shape grammar is only using one rule, later on you will know that shape grammar can consist of a single rule like this one, only one rule to create all the design, or you can have multiple rules. You can have 2, 3 or more rules to create design. But in this case, if you only use this one rule, so in the process of creating the design, you are going to repeatedly use the same rule towards all the similar shape that you can find in the development process. Okay. So later on, I'll show you the process to create the design. Okay. So in the shape rules, basically, as I mentioned, it determines how you transform or combine the original shape with a new one, and the combination can be with a new shape, which is similar or different from the original shape. Like the previous example, the original shape is rectangular, and then after the transformation, you combine with another rectangular, same shape. Okay, same with the original shape. And also like this one, okay, this is rectangular, and then the transform shape is basically you add with another rectangular, but you specify how you want to, where you want to put the new shape in relation to the original shape. Okay, labels can be used to control or understand the transformation. So just to give you some people might find it a bit more confusing if you use label, but I think for a start, I don't know. For me, I don't really use labels lah. But if you think that by using labels is easier for you to understand, then by all means you can use labels. If not, then you can just do away with the labels lah. And then another example is like this. This is where you combine the original shape, which is a triangle, with Okay, so this is where you combine the original shape with a new one. Okay, so the original shape is a triangle, and then you combine with a square. Okay. Okay. In another in other cases, you the original shape within itself, meaning that instead of adding a new shape, instead of combining the original shape with a new with other shape, you don't have to do that. I mean, you can just move, like for example, like this one. This is the original shape. This is just a label to identify or to mark the position of the original shape. And then after transformation, basically what happened is, instead of adding a new square, you just move the original square from its original position towards a new position. Okay, so basically this move, but you need to control the movement as well. For example, like in this case, from the original position, you move this corner towards the middle, right in the middle of the original position. Okay, so this is the original position, this is the middle. So basically you move the shape, original shape, from the original position to a new position like this. And in this case, this L shape here. So again, this is just a label to show the position of the original shape. So in the rule, you specify that you, instead of adding another L shape, you just rotate the original L shape towards certain angle. Okay, so this is also possible, but it depends on what kind of design you want to produce. But normally this is more convenient if you use computer. Right? If you use manual drawing, maybe it's not really recommended, because you just imagine if you draw manually, right? You draw a square here, and then after that you want to move the square, and then you have to erase manually the original position, right? So it's not convenient at all. If you use computer, it's quite easy. So after you move, you can just or maybe you just if you use AutoCAD, right, for example, so you just select the original shape and then you move at certain angle, and then that's it. Eh? You don't have to erase anything. Okay, shape rules can be applied repeatedly to any similar or matching shape during design development without any consideration towards the shape's orientation or size. Okay, what does it mean by that? Is basically, so if you look at the shape rule, this is the shape rule, which I've shown earlier. So the red color is basically the original shape, shape and the original position. And then after transformation, basically, you add another rectangular in this kind of relationship. So meaning that this top right corner, right, connect to, basically it's the same top right corner, but you rotate, right? So you just imagine that this shape, you rotate 90 degrees, okay? So that becomes the top right corner. But then in the process, how you attach or how you add the new shape to the original shape is basically like that. So that's the relationship. Okay, so what does it mean by orientation, different orientation, without any consideration towards the shape's orientation or size? So in this case, if the orientation is like this, then this is how you connect. If the original shape This is where the label is important, right? So first you just imagine this rectangular shape, and then you put the label at the top right corner. And then when you apply the rule, that's how the new shape is going to be added to the original shape. But if you look at this one, basically if you remove the label, okay, remove this label, it's still the same rectangular, right? It's just that instead of putting the label on the top right corner, so now you put the label at the bottom left. So when you put the label at the bottom left and then you apply the same rules, this is how the new shape is going to be connected, to be added to the original shape. Okay, you got what I mean? If you have any question, you can just stop me anytime. Okay, so I can explain further. So let's say, for example, during the process of transformation, right? For example, you have more than one shape rule. So maybe you have another rules that specify that the shape, the original shape, is going to be rotated 45 degrees like this. Okay, and then once if let's say the shape is rotated 45 degrees like this, and then you apply this rule, that's how it's going to be connected. And then if you rotate the object 135 degrees like this, then you apply this shape rule, that's how it is going to be added, okay, depending on the label. But if you move this label, for example, like this one, you move from this point, you move to that point, then when you apply the rule, the new shape is going to be added on this side. Okay, so now let's look at the design development process, the first design development process using the shape lemma. Okay, so basically this development is using this single shape rule. Okay, this one shape rule. So how do you apply the rule? First, you have to put the original shape. Right? So you put the original shape, and then the first application, you apply the rule to the original shape, you get this. Okay, so this is the first step of the development, and then after that, you just keep repeating. You apply the rule again and again towards the available shape. Okay, now, in this case, basically, you actually move the label because you already applied the rule to this label, okay, to this arrangement. You apply this rule, you get this. So no point applying the same rule again at the same place, because in the end, you won't create anything. So what you need to do is basically to move the label, right? So from that point, you move to this point, okay? So from this point, you move to this point, and then you apply the rule again. So when you apply the rule, that's where you are going to put a new shape, okay? And then you keep applying again and again towards the added shape, okay? So because this is also the same shape, okay? This shape is actually the same with the original shape. It's the same rectangular actually, okay? So basically you can apply the same rule again and again. So let me show you how it happened. So eventually it will become like this. Okay. So basically what happened during the process, so let me show here. Okay, so just imagine that. So now this is the label. You put the label here, and you apply the rule. So that's how you get this. So the new shape will be created here, and then for this one, you move the label here, and then you apply the rule. Then you are going to add the shape there. So now you have two additional shape. So you apply here. So this is the label. You apply the rule, and you get that shape. And this one, you put the label here, and then you apply the rule. That's how you get this. Right? Understand? Any question so far?
No.
Okay. So you can, as I mentioned here, you can keep repeatedly. You can apply again and again the rules to all the available shape, all the shape that you can see, which is similar to the rule. If suddenly you have a triangle, but there's no rules on the triangle, then you cannot do anything with the triangle. Okay. So here, if let's say, oh, sorry. So if let's say you put the label on a different position. So now you put here, then you're going to add the shape here. And this one, you put the label, here. Then you're going to add the shape here. Okay. Then, what else? Okay. Okay. So far, I only show you the this one. Okay. So basically, for this shape, there are two possible position. Only two possible position where you can put the label, right? So basically, why only two? Because you just imagine that this shape here with this label, if you rotate this shape 180 degrees, that's how you get the label here. Okay. So for this class, basically, I only allow rotation, meaning that from here, you rotate. So not to confuse you, okay, to not confuse yourself. So don't put the label here, because once you put the label here, then it becomes something else. It becomes meaning that you mirror the object to that side. Okay, so something else. It is actually possible, but I'm afraid along the way you can't really control the development. In the end, it becomes jumbled up. I mean, the language becomes different. So to be safe, you can't mirror the shape, meaning that you can't move the label from this side to this side, okay, in the mirror arrangement. But for rotation, it's okay. That originally is here. So you rotate the object 180 degrees. So the label becomes, the new position of the label is there. All right. So it's either here or here. Okay, don't move the label here and here. Okay. So later on when you do the exercise, please bear that in mind. Don't mirror the object, but only rotate within itself. Okay. Other example of shape rules. So the shape itself is just equilateral triangle, triangle with the same sides. Okay, this triangle, but this is just the label. A is just the label to show you the orientation of the object. So the shape rule specify that you need to add another identical triangle with that kind of arrangement. So meaning that the new one is basically, you can say it's mirror, right? You can say it's mirror, or you can say it's rotated or whatever. But the orientation of the new shape is like that, and this corner is actually right in the middle of the original triangle. Okay, somewhere in the middle there. So the possible orientation of the original and new object. So if you imagine you remove the A label, okay? If you remove the label, basically it's actually the same triangle, same orientation. You can see that it is same triangle. You don't move the triangle itself, okay? But this label is actually to show you how you can look at the original triangle, how you can look at the triangle in different orientation. Okay, so if let's say in this orientation, when the A is upright, you apply the shape rule. So that's how the new shape would be added. But if you imagine that the orientation is like this, where the A is pointing towards this end, at this corner here, when you apply the rules, that's where the new shape is going to be added. And if you imagine that the triangle in a different orientation, where the A is pointing to the right corner, bottom corner, and then when you apply the rule, that's where you are going to add the new shape. All right. So in one shape, that so basically it's similar to the rectangular just now. Okay. So just now in the rectangle, that's the rectangle. So that's the label. So you can just imagine like this lah. So when the A is pointing up, that's where the corner is. But the same rectangle, imagine that the A is pointing downwards. That's how you get the label at the bottom. Okay, but you don't move the rectangle itself. Right? The position is actually exactly the same. So similar to this triangle, the position of the triangles is the same. Okay, so all the same. So you just look at the shape in different orientation. So that's why but if you imagine the A is like this, then it's different. Okay, because the A should always be on the longer side. Okay, the position of A should be always be on the longer side. So this is already different. So that's why for the rectangular just now, you only have these two possible options. But for this triangle, at least you have these three options, how you can look at the triangle differently. Okay, so then once you have applied this, okay, once you have applied the rules, now you have additional triangle upside down like this. And here, also upside down, but then the position is here. And this position is here. Okay, now, as I mentioned, you can apply the rule again and again to all the matching shape. So now instead of only one triangle, you have two triangles. Okay, you can also apply the rules to the newly created triangle. But because it's upside down, so you imagine that the A is now like this. Okay, the A is also upside down. And you can also imagine that the A is pointing towards this side and the A is pointing towards that side. So when you apply the rule again towards the upside down triangle, that's where you're going to put the new triangles. Okay. So basically that's just to show the movement, the movement and orientation of the shape. But the actual production is here, is like this. But this one, the rule is slightly different. So I've changed the rules a bit. Okay. So maybe I go back to the previous example. So in the design development, so I just draw here. So like in the previous slide, you start with placing a triangle, draw a triangle, and then you apply the rule once. And now you have this. And then you apply again the rules. Let's say instead of applying to the original shape, so now you want to apply to this newly created shape. So you apply to this side. And then you apply again, you can apply to this side. Okay. So basically you just keep repeating again and again the rules to all the matching shape, wherever you like, to create the design that interesting designs. So for example, like this one, you apply again the rules to the original shape. So you're going to add this shape. And then here you apply again. Okay, just keep applying the rules. So basically, that's how you create a design. So now you already have some kind of pattern, right? You can see the pattern. But actually, by applying the same rules again and again. So now you already have one design, one pattern. All right. Oops. Okay, another example. This is different rule, slightly different rule, but the same concept. So you can look at the triangle in a different orientation. So first, when the A is like, okay, you start, basically you start with this one triangle, and then you apply. You start with this triangle, you apply, you get a new triangle on top. Okay, so this one, and then you imagine that you look at the original triangle, just like the previous slide. You imagine a different orientation for the triangle, for the same triangle, and then when you apply, you're going to add the new shape at different position, like that. So the possible design that you can create through this shape rules. The first one is this simple one. So how you create that is basically you start with this. Okay. Then first time you apply, you add here. Then second time, you imagine a different orientation of the triangle, and then you add here. And then third time, you add here. Okay. So you can actually further develop the design. So basically, like design number 2 here is basically like a further development of design 1. You already have this basic. So you can see this is actually the same. This is design 1 here. But now you apply the rules towards the new shape, new triangle, all the new triangle. Okay, so like this one, the A is like that. The orientation is A is like that. That's how you get this shape. And this one, the A is like this. Okay. Then you apply, that's how you get that. And in this case, the A is like that. You apply, that's how you get that shape. Okay. And then you can actually continue to develop the design to create to have different options and different design option. Okay. In a single rule shape grammar, usually only one type of shape rule is used before and after transformation. Like all the example that I've shown earlier. So basically it's a single rule shape grammar where you only use one shape before and after transformation. Okay, but sometimes the initial shape to start the design development process can be different from the one in the shape rule, but should have matching shape. For example, the rule is a single line like this, and then you basically how you modify the line is basically you break the line into 3 parts, but the middle part you do like that. Okay, you add like a corner. Okay, you pull to the left side, so it becomes like that. So in the design development process, the initial shape you can see here. You start with a triangle because the triangle consists of 3 lines, right? So you can apply the shape rule to all the 3 lines. So first you apply to this side, then second you apply to this side, then third you apply to that side. So that's how you get this star shape here. just imagine that if you, instead of using triangle, you can also use other shape, for example, square. So if in the process you decide to use square, okay, so you apply this shape rule. So first, you're going to create something like that, but this part here need to be erased. So, and then you, second one here, and then third here, then fourth. Okay, so it becomes a bit different. Okay, coming back to the, okay, sorry, I haven't, just to give you the basic overview first. All right, so previously I've shown example of design development process where the shape, okay, after you apply the rules, the new shape is basically the same size, basically the same size as the original shape, right? For example, like this one, the rectangle. After you apply, you get, you just add another rectangle on top of the original one. It becomes like that. But if you remember, I mean, the last few slides, I did mention the rule can be applied to any matching shape. Doesn't matter the size. Okay, so even though in the rule the size is this big, okay, but once you apply the rule, basically you are creating 4 smaller rectangles. It is the same in, at least it is the same in terms of scale. Okay, maybe this is a scaled down version. Right? This is a scaled down version of this, but it is the same shape. Right? So as long as it is the same shape, and it is maybe a scaled down or scale up version of the original shape, then you can apply the rule. You can also apply the rule to the newly created shape. No? So in this case, you start off with this initial shape here, and then you apply. First time you apply, you get this, and you can actually apply the rules, the same rules, to all these 4 smaller rectangles. So here you apply, you get this. And then this one you apply, you get that. Okay, you keep applying the rules. Then you apply again, you get this. And then you get this. Okay, so that could be regarded as one design number 1. And then from here, you can see that you are actually creating an even smaller rectangle. Okay, where you can actually apply again and again to all the smaller rectangles. Okay, so basically you apply the rule again. That's how you get this design number 2. Okay. Okay, this is a continuation from the previous one. So you can create different designs. You can create multiple designs using the same rules. Okay. So in this case, you only develop the left side. Okay, here you don't really apply the rules to all the smaller shapes, right? You actually selected a few sides that you want to apply the rules. Here you have some kind of pattern, right? Where you want to put where you want to apply the rules. Okay, and like this. Right. So basically, this is the idea behind shape grammar. So by creating only one rule like this, you can come up with multiple designs. Instead of just one design, you can create multiple designs. Okay, other example, if the rule is like this, right? One of the rules that I've shown earlier, when you apply the rules, okay, you develop the design. So the first design is like this, and then you keep applying the rules. Right? It's actually the same size lah, but because I mean the screen is small, so I have to scale down the shape. So you apply again and again. Design number 2, you can get this, and then design number 3, you can get this, and then design number 4, you get this kind of design. Okay, another example. But again, not all the rules are interesting. So sometimes simple, very simple rules like this and this would allow you to have or to create a more interesting and more intricate design. Like for example, like design number 6 is very quite detailed. But if you have this kind of rule, because you are the one who determines the rule, so how do you want to arrange the shape, right? So if you do this kind of rules, maybe it's only interesting when you created the three branches like this, okay, the tree trunk and branches like this. So it's kind of interesting how using this one rule, okay, when you keep applying the rule again and again, you'll get this, you end up with this pattern or this shape in design number 1. But maybe the possibilities of design not really that much. So in the end, when you apply the rule again and again, you want to create a different design. So other possible options would be like this, right? Like this, which is not that interesting for me. Okay. Okay. Another example of single rule shape grammar is this is actually done by one of the researchers overseas. This is the rule that I've shown earlier using this single line here. So you divide the line to 3 parts and then you create this corner in the middle. So with you just imagine from the initial shape like this, from the starting shape, which is just a triangle, you can end up with this shape in the middle here. So basically what happened is you keep applying the rules again and again. Okay. In this case, you apply to all the 3 sides, you get this. Then you keep applying the same rule towards the shorter lines. Okay. That's how you get that. And basically, if you can also apply the rules to this very small lines here. So in the end, the shape, okay, the final shape would look like just curve like that. So that's why they call it Koch snowflake curve, because when you keep applying the rules, you would only when the line becomes so dense, right? So it looks like curved lines like that. Okay, now let's look at the possible way to transform the shape into two-dimensional shape, but it's not limited to whatever I've shown here. Okay, so this is just these are just some examples. So first is translation, meaning that when you have original shape like this, and then the new shape is basically the same one, but you move to one side. Okay, you move to this side, or you can move upwards a bit like this, or you move down and you move to the back. Doesn't matter. Okay, but depends on how you want to use it. Okay? If let's say, like I mentioned earlier, instead of adding a new shape, you basically just transform the original shape. So meaning that originally the shape is here, and then in the rules you specify that after transformation you just move the original shape without adding a new one. So basically you won't see this one. So now the new position of shape is there. But there's pros and cons of doing that. So like I mentioned, if you use manual drawing, if you draw using your hands, maybe it's not advisable, because in the end you need to erase whatever shape that you have left behind, right? So if you use computer, maybe still okay, but normally this is not used in a single rule. So you just imagine if it is a single rule shape grammar. So the rule, let's say that this is the rules. Okay, so the rule, let's say this is the rules. Okay, first that's the original position of the shape. So the new position is basically, this is dotted lines. That's the original position. So now you move the shape here. Right? Okay, sorry. Okay, so there's no X there. So you just imagine when you develop the design, how if this is the only rules that you have, if this is a single rule grammar, you only have this one rule. Then when you create the design, so you start with this triangle, and then you apply the rule. Okay, this is the new position, but you have to delete this, okay, because the rule specify that you only move the shape without you are not adding a new shape. Okay, you move this, and then you apply again. Now the position is here. You remove here. So, I mean, you are not creating any design. It's just you just moving the shape further and further. But if later on I'll show you, but I'm just going to show you example. At least if the rule is like this, meaning that you add that's the original shape, and basically you add another shape like that. Then when you create the design in the design development process, you can it becomes like this. When you keep applying the rules, that's what you're gonna get. But again, also it's not interesting because in the end you only add new shapes to the right. Okay. So bear in mind that this rule basically only specify that you can only add the shape in front of the original one. You cannot add to the back. You cannot move backwards. Okay. But if let's say this is a multiple rule grammar, so meaning that this is the first rule. Okay, this one you cancel. That's the first rule. The second rule, let's say here. You add, or maybe you rotate. You rotate, same triangle, but you rotate that way. So when you apply the rules, basically, first you start with this, and then second you apply the first rule, and then you apply the second rule here. You apply the second rule here, and then again you apply the first rule, you add here, then you apply the second rule here. Okay, you apply the second rule again here, something like that. Okay, so then only it becomes more interesting, right? So you need to understand. You need to really understand that. So another this is example of shape grammar using only translation, using the translation of shape. So this is the original position, and you move. In this case, you just move to the middle, then you add new shape. Okay, in the design development, you start with square, and then you apply, you get another square, and then you apply towards a different position. Okay, again, this square basically you have four ways of looking at this square. So you can look at it like this. You can look at it like this. You can look at it like this, or you can look at it like this. So there are four possible orientation. Okay. So if let's say you look at it like upwards just now, this is how you would transform the shape. But if you look at the shape like this, so when you apply the rule, you're going to add the new shape here. So if you look at the shape like this, so when you apply the rule, that's where you're going to put the new shape. Okay? So I really hope that you understand this thing. Right? Why square? You can look at square in 4 different ways, but rectangle 2 different ways because of the length. So like rectangle just now, if you look at this, look at it this way, and you look at it this way, they look the same, right? They still look the same. And square also the same. So if you look at either this way, this way, this way, or this way, they still look the same. Right? So that's the idea. So basically, when you look at the object, without moving or rotating the object, just by looking at the object itself, you would actually look at it in different way. Okay, so when you look at the design development process, you keep applying the rules like here. So eventually you will create 4 smaller squares inside. When you keep applying the rules in different orientation, you would create 4 smaller squares inside. Then after that, you can apply the rules to the smaller squares. So that's how you derive with all these design options. Another transformation that you can use is rotation. This is something that I've shown earlier. It can be like all this, or earlier I've shown this kind of arrangement. It is actually rotation, but then the point, what's important is the point, the rotation point. So I think if you are familiar with AutoCAD, right? So every time you want to rotate something, so it will ask you to specify the rotation point, that kind of thing. So if you use AutoCAD, maybe it's quite easy to do this rotation. Okay, again, this transformation is only useful if you add new object. So for example, like this is the original, and then after in the rules you specify like this, and then it's okay. If not, if you just specify like this, so basically this is the original position and this is the new position, and then it won't create anything. So when you develop the design, you would only rotate the object, right, without creating any design. So usually this kind of transformation is used together with adding the new object, adding the new shape. Okay, so like this one, if you look at this, basically what happened is in the design development, you have this. Oh. Sorry. What time is it now? Okay. If you look at this one, okay, this rule here. So basically the rule is like that. Okay. So in the design development process, you start with this shape. Then you apply the rule, you add here. Then you apply again, you add here. You apply again, you add here. But that's it. So nothing much can be done. Okay, unless you have another rule where you can do something else, then maybe you can proceed further. If not, then that's about it. So you cannot do anything else. Bear in mind that if the rule is like this, okay, where this is the original shape, this is the original shape, this is the original shape. So when you add the new shape, it should be on this side. Right? It doesn't work this way. It doesn't work backward. If this is the original shape, the first shape, and then suddenly you want to add the new shape here, this one is wrong. Okay, because this is not following the rules. Okay, the rule specify that the new shape should be in front. It should be here. It should be here. So if during the process you add the shape here, then it's wrong. But if you look at the final object like this, of course I mean, you can see there's a shape here, right? But if you follow the process, basically how you get this shape is basically by applying the rules to this shape. You get this, and then you apply it here, you get this, and you apply here, you get this, right? So basically the application is following the rules. But if suddenly you want to create, you start with this, and then the first application you do this, and then it's wrong, right? So you need to understand that. You need to really understand that. So you cannot apply it backward. So you need to understand you need to know where position of the original shape, okay, the position of the shape, and then after you apply the rules, how the new shape should be added to the original shape. Okay, one example of the shape grammar using the transformation, rotation transformation. So like this, I've shown you earlier, this one. Okay, so basically I've shown you this example. So this is using rotation. You're just rotating the rectangular shape. Reflection. Okay, if the rule is about reflection, then okay. Right? So earlier I mentioned if this is the rectangle, originally it's like this, and then you apply the rule. When you apply the rule, you cannot apply it in mirror image. For example, like the rule should be like this, right? The rule state that the transformation should be like this, but suddenly you add to this side as if you mirror. So this is wrong also lah. But if the rule is a reflection, like this case, then it's fine. For example, this is the original shape. Then this is the new shape. So basically you mirror. Then it's fine lah, right? But again, you need to know whether it is going to be interesting or not. So for example, like this one. Okay, with this equilateral triangle, triangle with the same sides, you can consider this as rotation. Okay. So you can imagine that this is the original shape, and you rotate 60 degrees, you get this. If you mirror along this line, also you get this. Okay, so it can be both, like doesn't matter whether it's rotation or a mirror, but the position is going to be the same. So along the way in the process, how you apply the rules. So first you start with this, and then you apply to that side, and then you apply the rules to the new shape here, and then you apply again to this side. So these are the possible designs, possible shape, a possible form that you can derive with using the rules. Applied reflection. Right? So basically, this is the one where, yeah, actually it's more or less the same as the rotation of reflection like this. Okay. But again, maybe the transformation is it's not going to be that interesting. Okay, transformation of shape. Yeah. Okay, but here you can see that the rules are applied even to the smaller shape. Okay, first you start with this. Okay, and then secondly you have this. Okay, so now you have created this shape, this smaller triangle, where you can also apply the same rules, which is this, something like that. Transformation of shape in terms of scale. So the red one is the original shape, the blue color is the new shape. You can scale up or you can scale down. Example of shape grammar using this kind of transformation. So imagine that this is the original shape, and this is also, maybe it looks a bit different, but this is actually the same shape but in a slightly bigger scale, okay? And also different orientation. So this is going to that side, slightly bigger, maybe scale 1.5 or something like that. So in the process, basically this is how you create the design. So first you start with the initial shape and you apply to the original shape, you get this. You apply to the new shape, you get this. And if you keep applying to the new shape, then you get the shape gets bigger and bigger. So even here, if you can continue with this, right? You can add here, it gets bigger and bigger, right? So if you know the golden section, right? So any one of you have heard the golden ratio or golden section. So this is more or less like it. So other design in the same language is something like that. So basically you apply it in the different orientation. Okay, any question, or do you want me to show more example before I give you the exercise, before you do the exercise for this week? You clear about the method? Okay, so basically this week is just a single rule. You only use one rule to create the design. Any question? Any question? Are you guys still there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
No
so
question.
no question.
No question.
Okay, I think it's quite straightforward, but then wait until you do the first exercise, right? Okay, so this is the exercise. Okay. As mentioned in the module outline, there will be three exercises, but I think each exercise would have I think maybe not all, but this one have 1A and 1B. Okay, so 1A is basically you need to create 5 design or pattern using the given rules. So you use the rule shown in the slide to create a pattern, 5 different patterns or design. And then exercise 1B, you need to design your own single rule grammar and produce 5 design or pattern with it. You can use any shape, no? Triangle, rectangle, or hexagon, pentagon, whatever. Okay, so I leave it to you. But to get one tips of getting interesting or a lot of possible design is by using shapes with equilateral sides. No? For example, like the triangles. Okay, the sides are all the same. Okay, so basically like triangle just now. So you have 3 sides. So it doesn't matter how you look at it, you can apply the rules on the same. So you can apply it. If you look at it here, you can apply to this side. Okay, you can, if you look at it from this angle, right? You can, when you apply the rule, you get different different option. Okay, and then if you look at it from this angle, you get different possibility when you apply the rules, right? So if you use, for example, use pentagon. Okay, so how many possible ways you can look at it? Possible orientation, 5, right? So this is 1, okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, without moving the shape itself. Okay. So just imagine this is the shape. So if let's say you have the rule is something like maybe similar to the triangle I showed earlier, like that, as simple as that. So when you create the design or pattern, you can apply it here, you can apply it here, you can apply it here, you can apply it here. Now you already have one design. Okay, so basically in Islamic geometrical pattern, because if you know, normally in Islam there's a pattern using geometry. So you can find the patterns in moss, okay, ornamentation in moss. So normally they use geometry, to create the design, the pattern. So you can see it is something like this. So you use pentagon, you use hexagon, then you can create like Islamic geometrical patterns. Okay. So all the exercises should be compiled in this case, because you have 1A and 1B. So each exercise should be in 1A4. So 1A in 1A4, 1B is 1A4. And then next week, maybe there's exercise on 2D, two-dimensional shape, two rules. Okay. Two rules or multiple rules grammar. That could be another 2 exercises. Okay. So each would be in A4, and then you need to submit everything on week 6. So you don't have to. Maybe you can show me. For example, like maybe next week during tutorial, you can show me whatever you have done. Then I would comment. Okay. So I would comment that you need to improve, right? So, but the final submission is on week 6. Submission of all the exercises. Okay. So anything else before we end this class? So you need to continue with the exercise.
No, I think nothing else.
Okay, so if there's nothing, then cool.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
The PowerPoint uploaded.
Okay.
Will the PowerPoint slides be uploaded?
Yeah, I will upload shortly. In Teams because I don't think Teams. In Teams. So I don't think Teams is ready yet. So I just share on Teams and the file. So did you get the module outline and the file?
Yeah.
So I would post this slide. You can search under file as well.
So
Okay.
I'm still like not in Teams yet.
Amy, right? Okay. Later I add you to the group.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there's nothing else, thank you very much. I will upload the slide shortly. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye bye.